The whole gang's back together. Woo! So yes, Sunday morning again, back out, and it's good to see we've got most of the old gang back together. So it's been a few months since we've been able to get out together, but now most of the whole gang is back together. So we've got two Chris's up front. I'm unfortunately currently riding with Stu.
Unlucky son.
And then behind us are Jimmy and Jake. Life is good. So this morning we're doing an extended ride out to one of our favourite breakfast places, Brett's, which is a garden centre in the Rodings area of Essex. Is it the Rodings? Well, I think it's White Roding. So this route we do is normally about 33 miles, but today we've decided to tack on an extra 12 to bring it up to 45, which actually suits me because having not done as much riding as I wanted to so far over the summer, my weekly average to get me up to 2023 miles this year, which is a target I want to hit, my weekly average is now 48 miles. So even with this 45 mile route, I'm not going to hit that, so I'm going to be in deficit once again, but all the miles count, and I'll just have to try and get out in the week to do a few more miles to build up to my 48. I'm not going to hold my breath on that though. But in exciting news, I am back on the carbon fibre bike. I've actually been off this bike for the last few months because a little while ago I noticed that this bike had the stopping distance of a naval frigate, and that wasn't very safe. So I decided to get some new brake pads, took the old brake pads out, and then got involved with something else and just never had the chance to put the new brake pads in. All of 5 minutes that job takes. Yeah, I didn't have the time to do it. So I've just been enjoying myself on the gravel bike, which I'm not going to complain about because it is a beautiful bike to ride, but has to be said, it is nice to be back on this nice, light, carbon fibre bike. I'm definitely noticing it going up the hills, especially after Isle of Wight recently, where those hills were absolutely punishing, and I really could have done with a nice lightweight frame. So talking of brake pads, I actually got them sorted last night at about midnight, as I was coming out on this ride this morning at 7:30. And so as I was changing the pads, I noticed that the front brake cable was slightly frayed. So I thought, well, I better change that, you know, safety first. So took the cable out, put a new one in, put the brake pads in, tested it all out, tickety-boo. I thought, right, that's me set for 7:30 tomorrow morning. So off I go to bed. I wake up bright and early this morning thinking, everything's sorted with the bike. Nothing left to do, it's ready to ride. Until I came downstairs, realised that because I had to take the wheel off to put the brake pads in last night, I was still in smally smalls. So smallest chainring at the front, smallest cog at the back. Just makes it easier to get the wheel off. So I thought, well, just to make it easy for myself, I'll put it back into first gear. But all of a sudden, hang on, the derailleur's not moving inwards, and the shift lever doesn't seem to be doing much either. So there I was at 7:20 this morning, taking my STI shifter apart because the cable had come out of the cable channel that it sits in. So a quick bit of major surgery, and 10 minutes later, thankfully, I got it fixed and I'm back out on this bike. It wouldn't have been the end of the world, I guess. I could have taken the gravel bike, but as I said earlier, I was definitely looking forward to a nice light carbon fibre ride this morning. Now that's why it pays to know your bike inside out. And the only reason I know the bike inside out, for that reason at least, is because it happened a couple of months ago. And because I didn't know better at that point, I ended up removing all of the bar tape and taking the shifter off completely, only to later discover that I could have just pulled the hood back and taken off a little compartment held on by a screw. The things you learn. I'll tell you what we haven't spoken about for a while. Is Jimmy wearing pants?
All to be revealed later. Not revealed.
Revealed, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I might start a Patreon feed and I might put that sort of content on there, so if you want to pay for that, let me know. I'll start a Patreon feed.
I didn't mean it like that. That's your dirty, filthy mind. I knew what I meant.
How are the legs feeling after Isle of Wight last week?
Back. Isle of Wight battered them. Loved it, but that was hard on the legs.
Yeah, 4,500 feet of elevation in the Isle of Wight the other week. Definitely felt that. And as I said in that video, it was only 60 miles, which we have done plenty of times before, but the elevation just absolutely killed us. Plus, I mean, it was probably our fault for not preparing properly. Jimmy took food, Jimmy took sandwiches, I took a bottle of water with a hydration tab in it. Yeah, there was no stopping on the beaches, unfortunately. It was a bit too miserable for that. But we got through it, we made it. It didn't beat us, importantly. So we're now just 2 miles out from breakfast. And let me tell you, I'm looking forward to this cup of tea and a bacon and egg sarnie.
2 miles, you say?
Stuart heard there was 2 miles to go. And look at him, he's making a break. No one's gonna catch him when Stuart's after food. So one thing I've just noticed, just before we get to breakfast, if you saw my video a couple of weeks ago on which pedals are best for which type of cycling, I've just noticed that Chris, on his Super 6 Evo, is running SPD mountain bike / gravel cleats. Let's ask him why.
Why? Because I got a gravel bike first, and they're easier to walk in when you're going to the cafe for your breakfast.
Simple as that.
I think you're in the minority, Pete, because 4 people today are riding gravel cleats, actually, including myself. Primarily for the reason you gave, which it's easier to walk in the cafe with these on.
Everyone just wants to get to the cake quicker, that's what it is. They don't want to be clip-clopping into the cafe, sliding around all over the place. Efficiency is key when going for cake. We've got flip-flop pedals. We've got pure SPD pedals just there. Oh, look at these are even sexier flip-flop pedals. And then again, SPD pedals. And then there's Jimbo and I with our humble SPD SLs, going old school. I can't even see Jimbo's. But yeah, sticking old school, Jimmy and I, with the SPD SLs. Proper cyclists, proper road bikers. Not like these make-believers.
Yeah, actually in the warmer weather it's been making iced coffees.
Right, well that is yet another lovely breakfast done. And despite me saying earlier that we're doing an extended 45-mile route today, Jimmy and I suddenly realised when we finished breakfast that maybe we'd been sat down for a bit too long, and actually we don't really have the time to do the extra miles now. So we've left the other 4 guys, they've headed off on the extended route, and Jimmy and I are blasting home to get back for a decent time. However, despite the fact that it is quite bright, we've just felt a couple of spots of rain. So hopefully the heavens don't suddenly open up and decide to cover us. Although whatever happens, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as bad as what we experienced in the Isle of Wight. So I think we'll be all right.
Nothing will be as bad as the Isle of Wight.
Still can't get over it. 4,500 feet of elevation. No thanks. Morning. And as well as the rain, we've now got a headwind to contend with. Why is it never a tailwind? Doesn't matter which direction you go out for a ride, you get a headwind. You turn around to go back home, you get a headwind. How does that happen? The weather has completely changed again, and now it's gloriously sunny and actually quite hot. I don't know about you. And actually this changeable weather has got Jimmy and I talking about our triathlon in the Lake District in a couple of weeks, because being as it's happening at the beginning of September, there's every chance that the weather is going to be very changeable. So on the point of the triathlon, and I think I've spoken about this before, but it's not your traditional 3-event triathlon. Or it is 3 events, but they're not the 3 traditional events. So the first part, it's fairly traditional. It's a 40-mile bike ride around the base of Skiddaw, which is the highest peak in the Lake District. Next up is a 2-mile canoe around Derwentwater, which I've never done any canoeing before. It's not a kayak, it's an open-top canoe, 2-man. So that's Jimmy and I working as a team. And then once we finish that, there's an 11-mile hike up and down Skiddaw, which, as I say, is the highest point in the peaks. So that should be fairly tasty. And I know, Jimmy being Jimmy, that hike will probably turn into more of a run. And so we're traveling up on the Friday for that. The event is on the Saturday, and then traveling back down on the Sunday. But we're just having a little conversation about, while being up north, why not do a little bit of cycling while we're up there, while we've got the chance. So we're now looking tentatively, driving across the country on the Sunday morning and taking on Great Dun Fell. Oh, now that'll be a ride. So if you don't know, Great Dun Fell, I think, is the highest paved road in England, certainly. It may be the highest paved road in the UK, but I rather think that maybe that would be in Scotland. But there's a radar station at the very top. It's an average gradient of 9%. I think it's about 7 miles long with a max gradient of 20%. That's going to be spicy.
See what the Isle of Wight ride does do, when you've done all that elevation in a short space of time, you hit little ascents like that and then nothing. It definitely warms up your climbing legs. Because we've come up that one before on this ride and it's felt a little bit of a beast, but it's nothing. I suppose the moral is do more climbing. Get up more hills. Yeah!
Who'd have thought the more training you do, the better you become at hills? Who'd have thunk it? Good to see you, mate.
Big up, brother. Nice one, man.
Well, that was 33.5 miles done, and Jimmy being Jimmy has headed off just for a local loop to make it up to 40 miles because he cannot leave it on an odd number. But unfortunately we're heading out, so I need to get back. But in any case, that was a very nice ride. And my takeaway from today's video is use whatever kind of pedals you want to on your bike, especially if you want to get into the cafe quickly to get the cake. Don't let anyone bully you into using a particular type of pedals. And if you want to use SPD pedals on a road bike, then who is anyone to argue with it? If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up down below, and why not even comment? And if you're not subscribed yet, I would love it if you could be, because I am getting ever closer to that magic number of 1,000 subscribers, and I really want to hit that milestone within the next month. Let's put a time limit on it, within the next month. So if you could subscribe, if you haven't already, I would absolutely love that. And as ever, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. But as I mentioned earlier, I was definitely looking forward to a light carbon fibre ride this morning. Smallest ring at the front, smallest ring at the back. Just easier that way to take the